Be proud. A very successful fellow in his own field, very well known. And he told me that even now, with no reason at all to feel that way, he still worries about being a failure. He knows his head knows it isn't true, but inside him he still has that old fear. And I said, yep, been there. I understand that. But he doesn't let the fear run his life because he knows already that the facts are not supported by the feelings. He knows how to separate his feeling about himself from the facts in the world out there. It's okay to have fears, even irrational fears, silly fears, preposterous fears, as long as you know they only belong to you and not to the world at large. When we know things, we can act without the blinders on. We can see the world, not just our own fear. If knowledge is power, then knowing more things, knowing what makes us scared, what takes our mind hostage, is part of our liberation. I do have to think now and then about the intensity of our modern elections and politics and the rancor that seems to be present in so many corners, and all I can see is not anger but fear in so many hearts, unable to see beyond their own world, terrified that something might get in there and hurt them. The election has so much fear in it. It's really quite sad. Now, as I said, fear also clenches the heart, makes you want to run away. Anybody ever felt that? Yeah, of course you have. How do we get over that? Well, I visited another member in that same day, and she told me, you know, I've had insomnia my whole life. I looked at her and said, me too. And she looked at me and said, I didn't know. You seem to be doing okay. I said, yeah, so do you. Sometimes what fear needs to keep you from running away is to have someone else to stand with you. Aren't we all a little braver when we have someone have our back, when we're in a group? Fear shrivels with company even as it thrives in solitude. You have to have the nerve, though, if you forgive me, to say, I'm scared. And then have someone else say, me too. And the moment you do that, the fear drops down, doesn't it? A brain to remind us that our fear is inside, not outside, and a heart to remind us that we all wrestle and therefore can care for one another. And I want to go further than these two. I want to talk about where courage comes from. What do you do with it? Where do you put it? And as you know, for years I've been saying liberal religion is about freeing the mind, growing the soul, and changing the world. And I love that we all feel that's a good thing. But my message today is to say they're not all equally important. The first two are the ingredients to the third one. Freedom is essential. Absolutely, can't do without it. Soul is essential. We can't live well without it. But if we have them and do nothing with them, we have wasted the gifts they have given us. The goal is something more, something hard, something in fact scary. It's the same scary thing that keeps people from doing the right thing even when they know it. It's the kind of thing that Jesus talks about, that Martin Luther King talks about. The goal is a world, a whole world, where helping others is what the norm is and not the exception, when our life is about service to others. And that's what Jesus and Martin are talking about, but also a lot of other great people. Now, I know, we're realists. We don't get involved in lofty dreams and grandiose notions. And the idea that somehow we can make a world in which we're all nice to each other, not just nice, helpful, not just helpful, involved with others. That sounds as preposterous as waiting for the judgment day. So you should be skeptical. You should be skeptical. But if you are here and you're not at home, at some point you want to believe some part of that is possible. That you're not giving up on the world itself. You keep saying, well, it can't be perfect, but it can be better. And if you're here, some part of you wants to be part of making that happen, not just thinking about it. Now, you heard the Wicked Witch over here, and if that's what wicked looks like, I'm there. She told you about our strategic plan, and I've been telling you about it. It's based on the things you told us about education and diversity, and it's the outreach part I want to really push on today because, when you ask a church what they want more of, I'll tell you, every church wants more of the same three things: money, members, and buildings. They all want more money. They all want more members. They all want bigger buildings. Why do they want them? So we can do better work. But if we're really honest, they like them because they just kind of like them. Because guess what? Most churches in America are organized around a business model of church. You know what I mean? The business model says, there's a clientele out there. I want bigger market share. Really, it's what it's about. How can my Methodist church get more members than your Methodist church? And so what we do is we build bigger churches, put on bigger shows, and we're a success when we are able to attract more people. And of course, then we reward success. We become Rick Warren. People go, and they appreciate all the good work he's done. The model of church success is the same model as Sears or Herpelsheimer's, because exactly that's what it is. Churches are spiritual department stores. I'm not kidding. When this building was built, it was built along with Herpelsheimer's and Steccate's, and you went downtown to go to the store, or you went downtown to go to church. We had a gym upstairs. There is no religion I know of that stipulates gymnastics as a religious discipline. And so I gather it was to attract young people away from a life of delinquency, but it was still a product or a service. I've been to a church that had a bowling alley in the bottom. And it worked for a while. So did downtown department stores. Seen any of those lately? The entrepreneurial clergy, they went out to the suburbs. They built churches out there. In fact, what are mega churches? Think about it. Mega churches, shopping malls. But is the church in business? When I read the Buddha, when I read Jesus, when I read Moses, when I read the religious writings, none of them have anything that say, build ye temples and fill them with people. Not a one. All of them say, do justice, show mercy, live with compassion, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, house the homeless, visit the sick, free the captive. That's what they're all saying, and yet all of their franchises are out there trying to get you and me and everybody else to join up by putting on audio-visual displays with contemporary music and publishing wonderful step-by-step books for how not to feel terrible about your life. When the reality is, if you look at their own message, it is be compassionate, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, deal with the sick, make it a wiser, better world. So why shouldn't there be a church that does that? And that's its only reason for existence. Why can't there be? Tell me, could there be a church where its only mission is to do that? Pray tell, what might that church be?
Fountain Street.
Yes. But it will take courage, because what I'm asking you to do is not look around and say, how many people aren't here on Sunday, but ask, how many people's lives have been changed because we were there? How many people's lives are better because we are there? It isn't measured by butts in seats. That's just like counting dollars in the cash register. I don't care how many dollars we have or members we have. I care how many homeless have homes, how many hungry have meals, how many of the oppressed are no longer afraid, how many of the lonely are no longer frightened, how many people on the planet feel that they belong to the planet and have not been kicked to the curb. That's the measure of a truly liberal church and a truly liberal faith. The question is, are we in business to save ourselves? Are we in business to save the world? And I believe that if we are a courageous church, we'll say, I don't care how you get there. I don't care what you believe. I don't care whether you call upon God, Vishnu, or nobody in particular. I don't care if there's a question mark hanging from your neck. If you are out there to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, tend to the sick, release the prisoners, to walk humbly and do justice. If you're going to do that, you are part of Fountain Street Church. That is the vision that I hope we can come to sometime. I don't care whether you are religious or not. I care whether you live rightly or not. I don't care whether you join this church or not. I hope that those who want to really do, because you get some good bennies, I'll admit. For example, you get me coming to visit you when you're old. Wow. That's worth the price of admission all by itself, isn't it? But what you do get, you get me on Thursday night. Because after I visited all those wonderful older people, and they are wonderful, I went over to Gilda's Club because our character school had prepared dinner for them because they have a meeting. They made soup and salad and bread and pumpkin breads and all sorts of wonderful stuff. But by the time I'd seen our wonderful older people, I got there and there's only one thing left to do: wash the dishes. And I got to tell you, those 45 minutes to an hour when I stood there, by myself scrubbing pots and pans, were as real as I had been all week. I made a difference. I had the courage not to say, well, I'm the minister, and said, no, I am here to make a difference. I want us to imagine a church in which all we ask is, are you here to make a difference? That's the only question. Are you here to make a difference? And if they say yes, we say, welcome. You belong to Fountain Street Church. I know that's a hard thing to imagine because we live in a world that rewards power and wealth and prestige. But Jesus and Martin tell us real greatness is the courage to serve. Real greatness is the courage to be there for others, not for yourself. So there you have it after 3 weeks, a pilgrim faith that never sits down, a church with no walls to let you who's in or who's out, and a church that doesn't even want to become big, but just wants to serve. Who wants to be part of a church like that? I do. Jesus would too. Martin would too. And the question is, do you? You got the nerve? If you do, see me. Amen. You know, when you get too much of a good thing, like Mae West says, it's wonderful. So we're 15 minutes overdue, but this is a great song. It combines all the things I've been talking about. Who would true valor see? Written by, I believe, John Bunyan, who was the author of Pilgrim's Progress. There you go. And I went to his grave when I was in London. So I do this in honor of a great man and in hope of a great church. Let's sing together, shall we?